Ken Trahan with Lenny Vangilder. It's our First NBC Bank weekend preview brought to you by First NBC Bank with 32 locations throughout the greater New Orleans area and beyond. That's First NBC Bank, proud sponsor of SportsNola.com. Saints finishing up mini camp. It's a 3-day process. The best news here is fans get a chance to get out and see them. The weather's been cooperative, so they've had a chance to do so. Lenny, if you take anything out of this, what I take out of it is the injury situation. John Jenkins most recently. Brandon Cook's not here yet. Jimmy Graham not here. Everybody else stays healthy. And you really start figuring things out once you go to real training camp.
Right. This and one more week of OTAs next week. Kind of the final pieces being put into place before you get after it for real, so to speak, late in July up in West Virginia. So, just the chance for this team to kind of bond together here a little bit. And yeah, I'm really going to be interested to see just how things play out when they do get to training camp. And again, we're looking at it from afar, but still how it's going to play out there, taking the team off campus, so to speak, and bringing them up to West Virginia for what will be nearly a month.
Yeah, we'll see how that works out. Clearly, as people have asked several times, what do you think about it? My response is always the same. It doesn't make any difference what I think about it. It's all about the final result. It's business. It's the business of winning. If the Saints win, it's a good move. If they don't win, it's not a real good move, and they probably won't do it again. It's that simple. No other way to really paint this. And as for Jimmy Graham, a grievance hearing next week, well, we'll get a better picture of where this is going next week.
Yeah, and I think both sides really don't want to let it get to this. I would not be shocked if we see a long-term deal get done before this hearing next week, because those grievance hearings, whether it's football or it's baseball,
Ugly.
or it's exactly, things are going to get said in that room that are not going to be able to get taken back at some point. And it happens in baseball with arbitration hearings and such, and that you don't want those things to get to that point. But if it does, like you could see these things going anyway. The arbitrator has ruled against the Saints side of things on a couple of occasions previously. If you go by past history, but everything would seemingly be a fresh case in this, and we haven't really seen anything specific to tight end wide receiver. Although, as offensive has changed in the NFL, I think this will be something that's going to set the bar for some things out there in the future, because we're seeing more of those Jimmy Graham types out there that are lining up out wide on a significant number of snaps a game, a season.
Before we move on to other sports, the Voodoo playing on the road at Cleveland, a 10-1 team on Saturday at 6 p.m. And the big story there is they lose their best player, most productive player this year, L.J. Castile, to Canada, to Edmonton, and they're now on their fourth and fifth quarterbacks of the season, and two guys, one of whom has to start, who have never set foot on an arena football field.
Right. These guys were playing in college as recently as, in one case, January. Played in a bowl game in January. So, it is an adjustment. It is not the outdoor game by any means, and there are some great nuances in arena football that take time to learn. And I know that's Pat O'Hara's concern. These guys have some ability, but it is a different game, and it's one thing to be going against just maybe another run-of-the-mill arena team, but playing perhaps the best team in the league in Cleveland is not necessarily the best medicine to try to break in a new quarterback.
Turning to baseball, the other professional team in town is really going great. The New Orleans Zephyrs have won 5 consecutive games, and they're doing it on the road. One more with El Paso, and then they play at Albuquerque before coming home on the 17th. And as we've talked about, they just put everything together. They're pitching well. They're hitting well. Winning is contagious. They've got good players, and chemistry is important. When you send a guy down, Derek Dietrich comes down. He comes down with a good attitude, and he's played well for them and has fit right in. And chemistry at the AAA level is always very important.
It is, and we've talked here in the last few weeks. This team has, started to get something going here, and you got to like the way things are going. Arguably, the Zephyrs' best team this decade, maybe even going back to, the days when you were in the broadcast booth, perhaps, in terms of how good this team is compared to some of the other ones. But, this is a stretch where you're playing some teams that you're only going to see a few times a year, like basically just this one series, El Paso, Albuquerque. They'll come back here, play Fresno, Sacramento. It's an interesting dynamic in terms of the schedule in the PCL. You play the teams nearest to you 16 times a year, and you play the teams furthest away from you only 4 times. Mm-hmm. So, a break from that right now to play those teams on the other side geographically.
Yep, it should be fun to watch. And, of course, a lot of things going on nationally. The NBA Finals continuing. And what a win for San Antonio in Game 3 at Miami. Dominant from start to finish. Now, they won Game 3 last year, but that was in San Antonio. This was in Miami, and this gives them the upper hand once again.
They've got home court back again. They're 2 wins away, and they've got 2 games left at home. Game 4 Thursday night, and in essence, if San Antonio can find a way to win Game 4, this could basically be over. Now, we cited the stat the other day. Miami hasn't lost 2 games in a row in the playoffs since LeBron arrived, I guess. So you figure that's not a chance that's going to happen, but they still go on and play the games. And if San Antonio plays anywhere close to the way they played in Game 3, you got to give them more than a puncher's chance Thursday night.
And finally, of course, another major going on in golf. It's the U.S. Open, which is underway, and big names will rise to the top, have no doubt about it. Conditions will be tough. Scoring will not be low. And if you're under par, you have a good chance to win.
Absolutely. And the big storyline here, Phil Mickelson going for the career Grand Slam. At some point you got to think he's running out of chances. He loves to play the Open, and, he's a guy who's not won it, but he's finished second 6 times. So he has been there, been in a hunt so many times, and of course so memorably, in '99 when he lost on the 18th hole to the late Payne Stewart, and a chance again at Pinehurst here 15 years later to arguably what was his best shot of the 6. Going back there, can he get it done this week? Well, we'll see.
Prep football previews, new ones every day at sportsnola.com, getting you ready for the upcoming high school football season. Check those out. I know you will enjoy. Lenny, it's always a pleasure. Have a great weekend.
All right, we'll see you next week.
That's our First NBC Bank weekend preview, brought to you by First NBC Bank with 32 locations throughout the greater New Orleans area and beyond. That's First NBC Bank, proud sponsor of sportsnola.com. For Lenny, I'm Kenny. Have a great weekend, and may God bless you.